You crouch beside a muddy pool and watch something move beneath the surface. Your mouth is dry, animal tracks ring the water, insects tremble on top, and a dark cloud of silt rises where your fingers touch the edge. You drink anyway. For most of human history, clean water did not arrive through a pipe, pass through a treatment plant, or wait inside a sealed bottle. Your ancestors lived in landscapes where every mouthful came from rain, rivers, springs, lakes, plant tissues, or holes dug into damp ground. The water could carry sediment, parasites, bacteria, rotting leaves, animal waste, or nothing dangerous at all. How could you tell the difference? The first answer is uncomfortable. Often, you could not. Ancient humans were not protected by a magical immune system. A contaminated pool could cause diarrhea, dehydration, weakness, or death, especially in young children. Parasites could remain inside the body for years. Water was life, but water was also one of the places where life attacked you. Survival did not come from making every source perfectly safe. It came from avoiding the worst sources often enough. That required knowledge. Long before anyone understood microbes, you could still notice patterns. Clear water emerging from rock was usually safer than stagnant water covered with scum. A fast-moving stream was often a better choice than a shallow pool surrounded by fresh dung. Water collected after rain could be cleaner than water left shrinking for weeks under the sun. Would every rule work every time? No, but survival rarely depends on a perfect rule. It depends on a rule that improves your odds, then gets taught to someone younger. Children would learn where the reliable springs were. Adults would remember which pools survived the dry season. Elders would know that one hollow between rocks held water after storms, while another became foul when animals crowded around it. The map was not drawn on paper. It lived inside people. Archaeology shows how deeply water shaped those maps. At Gesher Benat Yaakov in the Upper Jordan Valley, archaeologist Nama Goran Inba and her colleagues uncovered repeated human activity along the edge of an ancient freshwater lake roughly 750,000 years ago. The site preserved stone tools, animal remains, edible plants, fish, and evidence of controlled fire across multiple occupation layers. That location was not accidental. A lake offered drinking water, but it also concentrated food, fuel, plants, animals, and useful stone. By returning to the same watery landscape, early humans reduced one of the most dangerous uncertainties in daily life. They did not need to wander blindly each morning and hope moisture appeared. What did water change besides thirst? Almost everything. A dependable source could determine where you slept, where you butchered an animal, how far you traveled, and when you moved camp. It could attract prey and predators to the same narrow strip of land. It could turn a safe place at midday into a dangerous place after sunset. So you approached carefully. Before lowering your face, you looked. Fresh tracks could warn you that large animals had just visited. Crushed reeds might reveal a hidden path. Silence could be more frightening than noise because birds and small animals sometimes disappeared when a predator waited nearby. Water collection was never only water collection. It was risk assessment. Imagine walking before sunrise with a container in your hand. The air is cool enough to slow your sweating, and the ground still holds the night's dampness. You follow a route used so often that your feet recognize it in darkness. At the spring, you do not immediately step into the mud. You scan the bank. You smell the water. You look for dead animals, thick algae, unusual color, or a film on the surface. You may scoop from where water enters rather than where it settles. None of this sterilizes the water, but each choice removes one small layer of danger. Then comes the problem of carrying it. For much of prehistory, a river could keep you alive only while you remained close enough to reach it. Travel away from water meant a countdown. Without a container, your movement was tied to the landscape like an animal following a leash. A portable vessel changed that. At Diepkloof Rock Shelter in South Africa, a team led by Pierre-Jean Texier studied engraved ostrich eggshell fragments dating to around 60,000 years ago. Ethnographic comparisons and deliberately made openings support the interpretation that whole shells were used as flasks. Often for water, an ostrich egg was not just food. Its shell could become a canteen. The opening had to be large enough to fill but small enough to close. The shell was light, hard, and rounded, yet fragile enough to demand care. Some containers carried engraved patterns, perhaps helping people recognize ownership, group identity, or a shared design tradition. Why decorate something used for survival? Because survival tools are rarely only tools. A water flask could carry memory, identity, and obligation. A person who filled it might not be the person who drank from it. A container could allow water to be taken to a child, an injured hunter, or someone waiting at camp. It could also be hidden. Recent Kalahari foragers have stored water in ostrich eggshells and cached the flasks for later use. Ancient caches are difficult to prove directly, but the strategy reveals what portable water makes possible. Instead of remaining beside a spring, you can place small reserves across a dry landscape. Now distance becomes manageable. The land expands. Modern hunter-gatherer observations cannot be copied directly onto the distant past, but they show the kinds of solutions mobile humans can use. Anthropologist Frank Marlowe documented Hadza life in northern Tanzania, where water may come from springs, streams, shallow hand-dug wells, and sometimes cavities associated with baobab trees. The source changes with season. So does the camp. When nearby water becomes unreliable, people move, adjust travel routes, or spend more labor collecting it. Mobility is not failure to build a permanent home. In a dry environment, mobility can be a technology as important as a spear. Would you rather carry water farther every day or move your shelter closer once? Your ancestors repeatedly faced that calculation. The answer depended on food, safety, children, weather, and other groups using the same place. A spring with plenty of water could still be a poor camp if game had vanished or conflict made the area dangerous. This is why ancient survival was social. One person could remember a pool. A group could remember a region. Knowledge spread through conversation, imitation, warnings, and stories. Someone who discovered a new seep in a dry riverbed could save more lives by sharing its location than by keeping it secret. Someone who ignored an elder's warning might turn private thirst into a group emergency. The human advantage was not a stronger stomach. It was pooled information. Yet your body was not passive. Repeated exposure to local microbes could shape immune responses, and the community of organisms living in your digestive system could reflect the environment around you. The microbiome is the vast collection of microbes that live in and on the body, especially inside the gut. A 2018 study led by Ashish Jha examined traditional populations and also reanalyzed data from Hadza communities using different water sources. Among the Hadza variables tested, drinking from springs or streams was strongly associated with differences in gut microbial composition. That does not mean dirty water made people invincible. It means water carried an invisible biological signature. Your ancestors lived in constant contact with environmental microbes, but exposure always involved trade-offs. Some organisms were harmless. Some may have helped train the immune system. Others caused devastating disease. Could ancient people reduce that danger with fire? Sometimes. Probably. Controlled fire existed hundreds of thousands of years ago, and heating water can kill many pathogens. But direct evidence for routine water boiling is much harder to find than evidence for hearths. Early containers made from hide, bark, wood, woven fibers, or shells often decayed, leaving little for archaeologists. Hot stones offer one possible method. A stone heated in fire can be placed into liquid held in a container that cannot sit directly over flames. Repeating the process raises the temperature without burning the vessel. Later prehistoric societies clearly used stone boiling, but proving exactly when and how often much earlier humans did it remains difficult. So the honest answer is not that every ancient family boiled every drink. Most probably did not. Fuel cost time. Heating took effort. Water had to be collected before it could be treated. When thirst was immediate and a spring looked good, drinking directly was faster. The most important purification system may have been the landscape itself. Soil and rock can filter water as it moves underground. Springs bring that water back to the surface. Rain trapped in a clean rock hollow avoids some contamination found in crowded pools. Digging beside a dry riverbed can sometimes reach water that has passed through layers of sand. But even clear water can carry danger. Clarity is not cleanliness. That is the counterintuitive twist. Ancient humans did not survive because nature provided pure water. They survived because they built behavior around impure water. They chose sources. They timed visits. They carried small reserves, moved camps, shared information, watched animals, and sometimes used heat. Each method was incomplete, but together they formed a survival system. Now reconstruct one day near the end of a dry season. The main stream has stopped moving. Only disconnected pools remain, and each one shrinks under a white sky. Animals arrive more often because every creature is being pulled toward the same few places. Your group wakes early. 2 adults leave with containers before the heat rises. Another person stays with the smallest children. A hunter follows fresh tracks toward a waterhole because thirsty prey must eventually approach it. The collectors avoid the lowest pool. Its edges are churned into black mud, and dung lies near the bank. They continue toward a seep at the base of a rocky slope, where a thin flow enters a shallow basin. The water is not sparkling. It contains grit. Still, it smells normal. No carcass lies upstream, and the source has served the group before. One person clears leaves from the edge. Another fills the containers slowly to avoid stirring sediment. On the return journey, every drop has weight. Spilling water is not a small accident. It means another walk, more heat, and more exposure to predators. A child waiting in camp may already be thirsty. Who drinks first? The answer reveals the group. Water can be shared according to need, effort, age, custom, and circumstance. A successful society must do more than find resources. It must distribute them without tearing itself apart. That is where the image of the desperate lone caveman fails. Your ancestors survived through relationships. A person with water could support someone who had food. A knowledgeable elder could guide someone with stronger legs. A mother carrying an infant could depend on others to bring liquid back to camp. Cooperation turned a fragile source into collective security. This did not eliminate suffering. Dry years still killed. Children still became sick. Groups still made mistakes, fought over access, or arrived too late. Archaeology preserves the successful campsite more easily than the person who collapsed beyond it. Every survival story contains invisible losses. Yet enough people made enough correct decisions for you to exist. Today, you twist a handle and expect transparent water to appear. You rarely ask where the source lies, how far it traveled, what organisms were removed, or how many people maintain the system behind the wall. The ancient strategy has not disappeared. It has scaled up. Your spring is a reservoir. Your eggshell flask is a network of pipes. Your experienced elder is a team of engineers, technicians, and public health workers carrying knowledge across generations. You still survive by trusting other people to remember where safe water comes from. The difference is distance. Ancient humans saw the pool, smelled it, watched its animals, and carried it home. You see a metal tap. The danger has become less visible because the knowledge has become more organized. So the next time water fills a glass in seconds, pause before calling your ancestors primitive. They crossed dry landscapes without maps, treatment plants, or plastic bottles. They learned which sources lasted, which signs warned of danger, and which containers could stretch a day's journey into 2. They did not conquer thirst once. They solved it every day. You crouch beside the water and watch something move beneath the surface. Your mouth is dry, but now you understand that the real survival tool was never the pool alone. It was everything your ancestors knew before they drank.